10/17. I lost my brother, my best friend. We had a lot of big plans, yeah we did. You were taken damn well too early, but your soul will still live on. Fly high, Hollywood. Fly high, Brock. I love you.
What stood out to me about Brock is just how kind he was. He was always trying to make people smile. He was very charming. In fact, the day before he died, we were at the bank because I had to go to work, but I needed to cash, I think it was like my second check from working with him. And we went to the bank, and it was just like cool how nice he was to this receptionist. He was just very respectful and, made sure she knew to have a good day.
He just brought like a light to the room and just like made everyone smile. And like, you can just really tell like by how he's been gone, how it's just affected everyone really.
Well, one day in middle school, he came over to my house and seen that I had a basketball goal. And we're just hanging out, and he said, hey man, you want to shoot some hoops? And gradually over the next few weeks, we would shoot hoops every day after school. And eventually one day, he decided to ask me if I want to go to Harps Park and shoot some hoops, because there's more hoops, it's a bigger court, it's just a really nice place. So just over the next few weeks, months, we just would go shoot all the time after school, and that's how slowly me and Brock became super close friends. One thing that in my mind really just popped about Brock was he was so real, and he didn't pick his friends by what they wore or where they were from. He picked his friends that they were a real person and they had respect, and if you respected him, he respected you. Because me, I'm a redneck. Brock, if you knew Brock, he wasn't anything about being a redneck at all. But it's crazy that me and him were so close. I grew up with him, and it really popped out in my mind about Brock, and it always has, that he was real. Like, he didn't make fun of you for what you wore. He was just, if you were real, and he was real right back. And that's one thing that really popped out in my mind about Brock, is that he was real and true in his heart.
He just fit in with any kind of group. And in high school you have the jocks, you have really smart people, you have the geeks, and he just fit in with everybody. He was an all-around kind of guy, just great to be around, and no matter what his situation was, he would always make sure you're taken care of before he was.
My favorite memories of Brock is probably Christmas of 2010. We were living in Hollywood. We decided that we were going to open one of our presents early without my mom knowing. I got like a Lego set, and then we built it, or he built it, because I wasn't very good at building Legos. We cleaned the whole studio apartment that we were living in to repay them for opening the presents early, because we thought it was so bad.
There was one time we went out in the woods, we were just hanging out with some friends, we had some tents, a fire, and me and Brock decided to go for a walk in the woods. Well, we're walking, it's like 11:30 or so, and we see a stop sign halfway in the ground, and we decided to try and get it up, and we got it. And we're walking around the woods with this stop sign, big stop sign, and we get lost in the woods, and we're walking for hours. It feels like forever. And at this point, it's like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and we find a road, and we're out walking on this road in 20-degree weather. It's crazy. It's super cold, can't feel my hands. And eventually we see a truck, and thank the Lord it was our friends, and we got picked up, and it was just crazy, because we were out just walking around, and it felt like miles and hours, just over a freaking stop sign. It was crazy, crazy.
This one time we were in church, and we had this competition, and he had this PS Vita we recorded it on. And we went to Best Buy. We put like a quarter on someone's head, and we would have to have them hit it off, but the quarter wouldn't be there. And we got like 46 hits, and we won. I said that was a pretty good memory.
My earliest memory of Brock is probably when we lived in Las Vegas, and we just got a PlayStation 2. And we were playing this game called Rampage, and you just like destroy a city. I don't know how that's my earliest memory of him because that was when I was like 6, but I just have a really bad memory, I guess. Yeah, just playing that game and it was just a good time.
My favorite memory of Brock probably have to be when we were juniors in high school and we were in Dr. Howard's class in chemistry, and he would always like misbehave, and she would always just yell at him, and he always thought it was really funny, and the whole class would think it was funny, and eventually he gave Dr. Howard a picture. It was actually his senior picture, and he was like, "Oh, you gotta keep this. I'm gonna be famous one day," probably with his rapping. That at the time I didn't know he was a rapper, but him and Tristan were definitely working on some music.
So how I heard about Brock, you know, getting in the wreck and everything is I was just sitting at home, I was working on music, and me and him had plans for that night to go over to his house and make his track. He had a track on the way, I was going to be part of it, and we had planned to hang out that night. I hadn't heard from him, and I tried calling him, and eventually I got a phone call from him, and he said, "Hey man, I got some stuff I have to do, and I'm going to do that, and I'll get back to you." And I was like, "All right." So I waited a few hours. I tried calling him again and again, and I didn't get anything. And I get a Snapchat from Ronan, and he explained the whole situation, and it broke my heart because I was just sitting there calling, and to hear this news that I never got that phone call, it just broke my heart whenever I heard it because I was just sitting there patiently waiting. I didn't know, like, I was supposed to see him that night. I had just talked to him, and it just happened out of nowhere and it really hurt I didn't get that phone call.
October 16th, I knew that something like that would never happen to anyone I loved, or my family. But, and then the next day it happened. And it just makes you more motivated to better yourself because life is short and it's even shorter for others, so.
We'll always love you, buddy. 10-17, I miss you, bro. 10-17, I love you, bro. 10-17, I can't do this no more. Do this no more. Do this no more. God dang. 10-17, I miss you, bro. 10-17, I love you, bro. 10-17, I can't do this no more.